I want to thank you for being with us in yet another of our videos, and this video is titled 5 Signs of a Narcissistic Leader. You might ask yourself, why am I talking about narcissism in terms of leadership? We have heard many different topics online about narcissism in friendships, narcissism in terms of marriages, narcissistic parenting, but not a lot is done on narcissistic leaders. And I want to talk about this topic because research shows that narcissists gravitates towards positions of leadership because of their sense of grandiosity. So it's not surprising that there's a higher percentage of narcissists in leadership position than in the general society. And I'm doing this topic because many of us don't work for ourselves. We work for others. And so as a result, we might be dealing with a boss, a supervisor, or maybe even some other type of leader that is a narcissist. And it's very important for you to identify this by knowing these 5 signs. And so the first sign of a narcissistic leader is that a narcissistic leader is very deceptive with their words. And so you might think that you have an understanding of what they're saying to you, and you might go away feeling, yes, this is something that he or she wants me to do. You go ahead and you do that, and then you come back to them and they're harsh with you, they're critical, and your head is just spinning because you're wondering, wasn't this something that we agreed on? Why is it that now there is this misunderstanding? But you see, this is a form of gaslighting. We see an example of this in the biblical story of Jacob and his uncle Laban, who, if you read the biblical narrative in Genesis, that Laban was a narcissist. Laban had this agreement with Jacob where Jacob would work for him for 7 years in exchange for the hand of his daughter, some sort of a bridal price as it was in those days. But what ended up happening, Jacob, after finishing the 7 years, was told by Laban, it is not the custom for the younger daughter to marry before the older. And so he just conveniently forgot to tell Jacob about this rule while he was working for not 1 year or 2 years, but for 7 years, until it was time for him to fulfill his end of the bargain. So narcissistic leaders are like that. Their words are very deceptive. They will leave out key elements in a statement that might make you feel as if you're getting a raise, when in fact you end up getting a decrease in your pay instead. And so the second sign of a narcissistic leader is that they are willing to sacrifice others, including even their own family members, for their success. So you're working in this organization and you're seeing good people let go for no apparent reason. People are used and then spat out by this leader, and you are beginning to see that this person is not a nice person. You see, for a narcissist, people are just pawns. They're just there to let him achieve his goals and objectives. Or you might even blur that with the organization's goal and objective, but he doesn't really care about your well-being or the people who is working for him, their well-being. He is concerned about himself, not even the organization. He or she is concerned about himself. You see this in the story of Laban as well, where he stole his youngest daughter's opportunity to get married to the person that he loved. Why? Because Jacob was a good worker, and if he could trick him into working another 7 years, he didn't care about how his daughter would feel or how Jacob would feel. All Laban cared about was the bottom line. I am getting another 7 years of labor. So narcissists, they are willing to sacrifice others, including even their own family members. And they sacrifice family members sometimes by the time that they spend with these organizations, trying to achieve grandiose ideas so that they neglect what's happening in their household. I remember a few years ago, this woman was telling me about her husband, how he's so driven that he didn't even remember that she was pregnant with his child because he was so busy accomplishing the goals of the organization, which was actually his goals. And the third sign of a narcissistic leader is that they are heartless towards employees. We touched on this earlier, but I want to focus this as a main point because I think this heartlessness will take many forms. You will see people are paid far below what they're worth. You will see people who will work for many years without getting a raise. And you will also see people who are deceived into thinking that they have some sort of benefits when in fact they don't. This is part of the gaslighting where people are used and there is this heartlessness. So when you see heartlessness, you should pay attention to it, even if it's not affecting you, because one day it will be turned against you as well. And the fourth sign of a narcissistic leader is that they take all the credit. They will say, this organization would be nothing without me. Or they will say things like, I do all the work around here, when in truth and in fact, often they do very little. There are others who are working hard for the organization, but they take all the credit instead of giving credit where credit is due. And we see this in the biblical story of Jacob and Laban, where at one point Jacob, who had worked hard to gain his wealth and to become successful in Laban's family, was told that everything that you own belongs to me. This is in Genesis chapter 31 and verse 43. And then the fifth and final sign of a narcissistic leader is that narcissistic leaders have this tendency to self-destruct. And when they self-destruct, they bring others down with them and they bring the organization down with them. So what's the reason for this? Because there's this article that is written in the Harvard Business Review, and the article is titled The Incredible Pros and the Inevitable Cons of Narcissistic Leaders. And so these people have grandiose ideas that they will start with big dreams for the organization. The organization will flourish for a time. But the tendency is that over time, the cons of a narcissist will begin to set in. So, for example, narcissistic leaders, because of their insecurity, don't give others that are under their leadership the room to grow and develop. They're insecure. And so they will fire people who they feel threatened by. And of course, this is a cost to the organization. And so over time, they will erode the organization of talented people because of their insecurity and their narcissistic tendencies. But another way in which they will bring the organization down is that these narcissistic leaders, because of their grandiose ideas, they often put companies or even churches in a situation where, because of their big ideas, that the organization is spending way more than it's bringing in. And so over time, the organization becomes bankrupt or fall into financial difficulties. So if you're working in such an organization, my first advice would be for you to find another job. But if not possible, my next advice to you would be to document. Because when you don't document what you're told and what is happening, when that organization begins to crumble, you will be pointed to as the person who made the mistakes. The narcissist will take no responsibility for his action. And so it's important for you to, if you're going to stay, to document everything that you're told and have it confirmed with this person. And so there you have it, the 5 signs of a narcissistic leader. If you have any question about this or any other of our topics, you can reach out to us through by phone or by email by going to our website, elimcounselingministry.com. Elim is spelled E-L-I-M, counseling with 2 L's, ministry.com. If you like this podcast, we also want to ask you to consider subscribing to our channel. This helps to get this message across to others, and it helps others to find us more easily. We also want to remind you that you can become a sponsor of our channel by going to patreon.com. Patreon is spelled patreon.com/Elim Counseling, where you can subscribe to our channel for as little as $5 monthly. You can also donate through any of the other means on our website. So until next time, this is your host, Michael Hart of Elim Counseling Services, praying that God will bless you in all your relationships and keep you sound in mind and pure in heart.